Hi, I'm Jerry Bowyer. You're watching the Eagle Investing Network. I do hope you'll subscribe, and I do hope you'll also share these videos with somebody who you think might benefit from understanding economics, finance, investing, the U.S. economic outlook, inflation, how to choose the right sectors, how to choose the right stocks, how to choose stocks as opposed to bonds, how to build your wealth over time, rules to follow, as opposed to just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. Rules that have shown themselves to be effective in the past. That's what we're talking about here. And we recently have been talking about the US picture versus the international picture, because we're kind of starting kind of at the biggest level, zoomed out and then zooming in. So a lot of people say, what would you invest in? And what they really mean is, which American company would you invest in? But there's always a question like, well, do you invest in the company stocks, or do you invest in company bonds, or do you invest in commodities? Or do you invest in currencies? But behind that is, what country are you investing in? People don't usually ask that question. They just assume that you're only investing in the United States of America. And I've mentioned before, United States of America is less than 1/4 of the global economy. And it faces some significant challenges. I'm not arguing that you shouldn't invest in the United States of America. I personally am. But to be 100% invested in one country, well, let me just put it this way. If you're going to do it, don't call yourself diversified. All right. And this particular country, again, ours, I say with some sadness, has some significant headwinds in front of us. All right. So how do you decide which countries are best to allocate your capital to? Well, last time we looked at competitiveness. We looked at overall competitiveness before. How competitive is the economy? Does the country have the ability to compete with other countries? Then we looked specifically at talent competitiveness. Does the country have an ability to compete with other countries when it comes to having talented, productive workers? Do they have the right knowledge? Do they have the right intelligence? Do they have the right training or education? And it's not just about education. It can be training, it can be apprenticeship, it can be experience. Do they have the right knowledge according to standardized tests? All right. And what we saw is that it affects subsequent investment returns. Why do I say subsequent? Because whenever you're investing, you don't know next year until next year in terms of returns. You might know what score a country has on competitiveness this year. You might know what the tax rates are this year. You might know what's going on this year. You have to take that knowledge and invest for next year. You get your returns later. So we have to look at what happens afterwards. This is a very important thing in investing. And I've seen so much analysis and research that says, well, something changes in year A, and in year A, you get better returns. Well, yeah, very useful information if you have a time machine. But for the rest of us, we only invest based on what we know now, and then we're trying to get better returns in the future. And we saw that talent makes a difference based on what you know at the time of the investment decision in terms of what happens in the future. Now we're looking at another competitiveness study. This one is again, the same group, the IMD World Competitiveness Center. No, I don't own stock in them. I just found their information very useful. And this is the IMD World Digital Competitiveness Ranking for 2021. In this particular case is the most recent one, but we're looking at the history of this available data. So this is how competitive is the country when it comes to the use of computer technology. Computer technology has been a major driver of productivity, not just in technology companies, but in all companies, even companies that are doing very physical things, mining, oil extraction, manufacturing, all are highly informed by computer technology. So what we want to know is, are these countries competitive when it comes to computer technology? So what do they look at? Well, they've got three categories. One is talent. We already looked at a separate talent ranking. This has a little overlap with this, but not entirely. It's more focused on technology. The other is training and education. And finally, scientific concentration. What do they look at in terms of talent? Well, the PISA test, that's an international standardized tests. Remember, you don't want to go by what grades people get in school, because in some countries, they say, oh, easy A, or if you're really not doing so well, you get a B and nobody gets a C. We get grade inflation. Well, we don't want to count grade inflation. We want to know what they actually know. So everybody in the world takes the same test and we find out what they actually know. And this focuses in on math knowledge because math tends to be the basis for computer science and other technology. People who are good at math tend to be good at technology. Do they have international experience? Because it's an international economy. A fair number of them foreign, highly skilled personnel? Are we attracting programmers from around the world? Look, I understand there's a political debate about foreign workers coming here on visas and taking away the jobs of Americans. I'm not going to enter into politics here, but I will say this. A country that those people want to move to is a country that probably is more competitive, whether we ought to let more in or not, or keep the jobs for native born, or slow down the ability of people to move here and bring those skills. That's politics. I'm not doing politics. All I'm saying is whether you accept them or not, you want to be the kind of country that they want to come to. Are there digital technological skills? Is this an economy made up of people who know how to use technology and are used to it? Do we have a net flow of international students, not just international tech workers? Do we have good employee training? Do we have high education achievement? Do we have a lot of graduates in sciences? See, this is not just saying, do we have a lot of college graduates? We're not really looking for art history majors here. We're asking for people who have graduated with a degree in science or technology. That's training and education. Scientific concentration. Are companies spending money on research and development, or are they just giving themselves higher salaries? Are they reinvesting in technology? Is the country as a whole spending money on scientific research and development? Do we have a lot of scientific and technological employment? Are we producing a lot of patents? Are we using robots in research and development? Robots seem to be something that's very important for the future, and that's part of technology. Have we gotten good at using them? All right, so that's how it's analyzed. That's how it's ranked. So then what we did is we took, this is at any given time period. So each year that they do this particular ranking, we say, okay, we're going to put all the top fifth. That's what quintile means, just Latin for fifth. The top fifth best countries, that is the countries that get the best score on digital competitiveness, and we're going to put them in this bucket. And that's like a little investment portfolio. And then there's going to be a second best, and there's going to be middle of the pack. Then there's going to be a second to the worst, and then there's going to be the worst, the least competitive. So we're going to put them in that bucket. And then we're going to say, on average, in the next 6 months after this, on average, what is the stock market return in that country? So you don't know the stock market return in advance, but you do know in advance what their digital competitiveness score is. So these are the best. And that's almost 5% return. All right, let's say you invested in the second best. There's a drop-off. Not a huge drop-off, but there's a drop-off. Let's say you just go for the middle. Let's go for mediocre. Who cares? I don't think digital competitiveness matters. Big drop-off. That's not really very helpful in terms of historic investment returns. Now, nobody knows the future, but the pattern in the past is that non-digitally competitive countries do not have as high a return in the time period after. What about the second from the worst? That's quintile 4, another drop off, and then another drop off in the worst. So look at the difference here. If in the past you had done nothing but invest in the most competitive countries, meaning digital competitiveness, as opposed to the least competitive countries, digital competitiveness, this is the average difference in returns that you would get. That's worth paying attention to. That's something that matters. It's not the only thing that matters. Lots of other things matter. There's growth. There's also whether the stocks are attractively valued. You want to buy on sale, for example. And you also want quality earnings. There's a lot of other things going on. But one of the things going on that is very important is the country competitive? You might be asking, how's the United States? Well, first of all, we're number one. I'm pleased to say we are the most digitally competitive country in the world. But I say with some sadness that when you look at individual factors, we are tailing off a little bit. In other words, we're ahead, but we're not as ahead as we used to be. And we're not ahead in each of these categories. When you add up all of those factors we looked at, we're ahead, but some of them we're not doing so well in, and we're falling behind, and other countries are catching up with us. By the way, who's surging, who's getting better? East Asia again. So this global civilizational economic clash, rivalry, is something in which we are falling behind in some important competitiveness areas. I wouldn't give up on the United States of America. I can't. I live here. I'm a citizen. This is where my children and my grandchildren live. I'm committed to it. But as an investor, I have to allocate efficiently and allocate where there is the greatest promise of returns. And that would not be only in one country. That would be around the world. And part of that would be driven by which countries are most competitive. Hope you've enjoyed this. Some of it is bracing news, a little bit difficult to take, but that's how you can end up improving things, by knowing where we're not doing so well. This is the Eagle Investing Network. As always, thanks for joining us. Make sure to hit subscribe and share this with somebody else. Thank you.